Hello and welcome to episode 71 of Off the Bandstand. My name is Christian Wiggs. I am your host. Today's episode is John Lake, a trumpeter, composer, and arranger living in New York City. His work as a lead and section player has made him a familiar face, performing in the American Ballet Theater Orchestra at Lincoln Center, the Michael Feinstein and Ted Firth Big Band at Jazz at Lincoln Center, Charlie Rosen's The 8-Bit Big Band, and Broadway shows such as Mean Girls and Be More Chill. This episode was part of Bandstand Presents' ongoing series, The Residency, that facilitates community between the Austin, Chicago, and New York scenes through collaborative shows with the Christian Wiggs Big Band, the Staple Monday Night Jam at the Elephant Room, educational engagements at Texas State University, and episodes of Off the Bandstand. In this episode, we chat about John's fondness for Russian literature. We also chat about how he found his crew that resulted in the new Alchemy Jazz Orchestra, and a mobile festival gig where the sound quality was at the mercy of a Roman-era power outlet. Moving on to our featured release this week, this is Seven Angels, John's debut record as a bandleader, consisting of a diverse mix of contemporary originals and modern arrangements of jazz classics, whose conceptions span the length of John's tenure in New York City. If you want to support this release directly, you can head over to johnlakejazz.com, and for all things John, all the time, you can follow him on Instagram at TrumpetLake. In recent news for Bandstand Presents, we just released our latest production with Matisse Picard, featuring his new original work, Fugue in D Minor, Mysticism of Money, which was premiered on NPR Live Sessions this past Saturday as part of their programming celebrating International Jazz Day. For more information, you can head over to bandstandpresents.com, and for all things Bandstand all the time, you can follow us on Instagram at Bandstand Presents. Keep an eye out for some more incredibly exciting announcements in the next couple weeks that take Bandstand outside of the Lone Star State. And in the meantime, you can head over to monksjazz.com to watch any of our archive shows from the last 6 months of the residency, including our most recent shows, the Christian Wiggs Big Band meets Clark Summers Lens, and Matisse Picard's Live at the Museum release show. That is it for all of the mentions and announcements this week. Let's dive into episode 71, John Lake. This is Off the Bandstand. Man, you were talking about Danny Devito, and my favorite movie is where Danny DeVito plays every character. It's not made yet, but I think that if we keep this show going,
like what movie is that?
We can get like one of those vibes, like a Norbit vibe.
I think so. You could do it.
Yeah,
you can do anything.
I mean, you were telling me a lot about movies. Are you a frequent film connoisseur?
I wouldn't say that I'm like a movie buff, because then I'll hear about like somebody who watches like the same movie 20 times, and I'm not like that. I don't have cable. Sometimes when you have cable, like a movie's just on, and you're like, I guess I'm watching this movie now. Right. I don't really do that, but I do love to go to the movies. Yeah. So when I grew up, that's the only way you could see a movie, was to go to the movies. And then in college, I got somewhat, I didn't want to be around a lot of people, and the movies bothered me. You know what I mean? It's like noisy. And but then recently, man, in New York, there's some really great small theaters where you can go and have a bowl of popcorn and like a cocktail. Yeah. And they bring it. It's like, and you can see arty films. I saw Licorice Pizza recently. I saw Dune.
Oh man, how were both of those? I didn't get to
Licorice Pizza. I don't want to like cause a scene, but
PTA is an avid watcher of this show, by the way.
Oh, really?
No.
The Haim sisters. I didn't love it, man. Honestly, I felt like the story really wandered, and it didn't make a ton of sense. Bradley Cooper has like more than a cameo.
Okay.
He has like a role in the middle, and he's hilarious.
Yeah.
John C. Reilly has a cameo that's like very quick. If you don't, you'll miss it. But I didn't love the movie. I just felt like it didn't make a ton of sense. Which, not everything has to have such a grand story.
Sure, right.
You know what I mean? But it was a little. By the end, I was like, okay, I don't really care what happens to these people at this point. Yeah. Dune was amazing. I never read the books. I have done that before, like when Lord of the Rings came out. I was like, I'm going to read the books first. Yeah. And I did. And
you did? Oh, man, you committed.
Yeah. And then I saw the movies after, and it was like, okay, this is like copacetic. This is basically the same thing, you know? It's a huge investment of time. Dune is like a 1,200-page book, which I haven't read. I don't know that I will, but so far I love the first movie, and I'm really glad that they were able to sign a deal for the second movie. It's probably going to be like the same people.
Yeah.
That because it's so rare to see things like that.
Yeah.
You know, it's not a Marvel movie or something. It's like, this is a real piece of art. It's incredible, man.
Yeah.
So I'm looking forward to seeing that again. But in the theater, you get the sound, and it's a different experience. You're not going to get that at home, you know, on your computer, laptop. Like, it's not going to happen.
Fair enough, man. Well, okay, so you said that going to the movies was like one of the main things to do when you were growing up.
Yeah.
So you're from Ohio, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so set the scene. Give me like Batman style. Give me the John Lake origin.
Well, picture a cornfield.
Done.
And then I'm in the middle of it.
Great.
And that's where I'm from.
For like 18 years.
Pretty much. It's a very small town. It's called Salina, Ohio. It's spelled Celina. And there's a few different Salinas around the country, and sometimes they're spelled differently. But it's a town of about 10,000 people. It was the county seat. So you had to drive about an hour to get to any place that had a few more people. Dayton was the nearest city, and that was like 90 minutes away.
Okay.
So it's just very rural. A lot of farmers, people who work in manufacturing, you know, things like that. But because we're the county seat, we things changed. While I was growing up, we got the Walmart.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We got the big grocery stores.
Yeah.
You know, local chains, not anything national. So people would come from all over the county to come to our town, but it was still very small. And this is the kind of thing where everybody knows each other. Everybody knows each other's business. That kind of thing, you know? What I love about New York now is you could have an interaction with somebody and turn the corner and you're just like, it never happened. You know what I mean? But it's a very different vibe growing up in a small town. Yeah.
Do you get to shake that? Because I'll get in my own head about a situation that happens, and it could be nothing, and I'll be thinking about it for the entire week. So you went to the polar opposite, densely populated place.
Yeah.
If those situations happen, do you still have the same kind of mentality of when you were in the small town?
Kind of. It depends. Some days yes, some days no. Like, things happen in New York that are insane. You know, like you'll be on the subway and somebody does something insane, and and then you'll get home and you'll completely forget about it. And I don't forget to even tell my wife what happened to me today. Dude.
What happened this week?
It was a couple weeks ago. My wife had an appointment downtown, and I was just accompanying her. But it's COVID, so I couldn't go in with her. So I was just chilling in Chinatown. Cold day. I'm just sitting there listening to a podcast. This woman walks by me. She has a tote bag over her arm, and she walks past me from me to you. Yeah. The tote bag is on fire. There's a fireball coming up her back, and she's wearing a fleece jacket. I was like, oh my God. I was like, hey, and she's like, what? And she pulls away from me. I was like, your bag is on fire. And she's like, huh? And I was like, put it down, and she puts it on the ground, and I'm stomping it out. She has a bunch of wadded up pamphlets and shit in her bag. I'm like, how did this even happen? And then I stomp it out, and she's like, okay, thank you. And she picks it up and starts to walk away. It catches back on fire.
What? Because the fire was not put out.
It was not fully. I mean, the fire was out, but it was literally. So this was 15 seconds into the encounter, and she's like, "Okay, thank you," and picks it up and walks away, and it catches back on fire. I was like, "No, stop!" And then people start running. They're like, "What is this guy terrorizing this old lady for?"
Sure. And you're just trying to not.
I'm just like, "Holy shit!" And then literally, and then she's parsing out all of her shit. Sorry, from the bag, apologize. And she's like, okay, this is trash. And then she just throws it there's a trash pile because it's New York City. Sure. There's just a pile of trash, and she throws it in the trash pile. She's like, okay, thank you, bye, and she walks away. It's literally 60 seconds, and I sit back down on the bench, and I'm like, what the fuck just happened? You know what I mean? I texted my friends, and they're like, they didn't believe me. You know what I mean? And then I got home and. I just forgot that it even happened. I didn't tell my wife.
What were you listening to? What was the podcast you were listening to?
I really love Preet Bharara. Do you know this guy? He's the former U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, which is actually the job that Rudy Giuliani had in the 90s when he broke up the mob and, cleaned up Times Square.
Solid.
He gets credit for a lot of things. He was appointed by Preet was appointed by Barack Obama, and did a lot of great work, and was appointed by the state of New York to do a corruption investigation. And he started really bringing down some serious politicians.
Whoa.
And I think it got a little too close to Andrew Cuomo, and Andrew Cuomo shut down the investigation like that. But Preet now, he really got famous, not just for that, but when Donald Trump came in office, Donald Trump called him on the phone a couple times, and Preet is a very by the book, like, ethical attorney, and he didn't answer the call. You're not like Obama appointed him to this job, and Obama never tried to reach out to him or communicate with him, whatever, because there's supposed to be a separation. There's supposed to be a distance
Buffer.
And yes, and Trump tries to call him, and Preet was just like, I don't do that. I'm not. You're not my boss.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Right.
Like, technically, you can fire me, but like, I don't answer to you in my role as a U.S. attorney. And so then Trump fired him, which is very rare at that level to be fired from a federal job like that. Like, usually you step down or something happens.
Sure.
So that kind of catapulted him into another realm of fame, and then he started working at CNN. But he started a podcast, which is, if you're politically, if you're interested in politics, it's such a cool, informative take. Like, a lot of talking heads on cable TV and things. A lot of the things they say, it's just designed to provoke outrage and to keep people watching. But Preet's a lawyer, and lawyers generally are very, like, objective and calm and cool, and I just feel like it's such a great source of information. Like, when a politician says this, what's really happening, he seems to be kind of on the inside track.
Yeah.
He clerked in the Senate for many years under Chuck Schumer, and it's my favorite. If there's one podcast I listen to every week, it's that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, I'm already was before we met, but increasingly more fascinated with you and the variety of, like, things that I feel like jazz musicians, well, just like we can get so, like, hyper focused on the thing because it's our day in, day out. And yet, like, over all of our conversations, you've been able to, like, contribute all these different things. I'm like, I'm learning so much, man. Like, how do you, as a person who is jobbing all the time in the city, how do you find the time for yourself and, like, I mean, for your family, for your wife, that matter, to balance everything out?
It's tough, man. I'm always going. I'm as I get older, I'm increasingly more restless. It's harder for me to sit and just be these days. But I have a lot of hobbies, man. I told you the other night, and I don't mind sharing, that I was recently diagnosed with ADHD. I'm 38, and I've just got diagnosed, like, last year. So like, this would have been helpful to know a little earlier.
No, it was late onset.
Yeah, late onset ADHD. So one of the things that's characteristic of that is you have a ton of hobbies, and I have a ton of hobbies, man. Like,
hit me with them.
In reverse chronological order: cycling. I smoke pipes, like tobacco pipes.
Okay.
So I have a bunch of, I can't stop acquiring pipes.
Got some nice, like, Scottish, like, beret, like, hats.
I don't do that, not yet. That's a good idea, though.
You should. Yeah.
I go camping and hiking a lot. I like to read. I have a nice hi-fi. It's funny, musicians, you would think they would all be into audio and have nice stereos, and that's not the case. Most of the time, they're just, like, streaming. They don't care.
Sure.
But I have a nice hi-fi with, like, a record player, and I have a 88-key Rhodes piano that I love, and I just have a lot of different interests, and I think it's, for me especially, I do work a lot playing trumpet. Like, I have a gig every other day or something like that, and this is the life I always wanted. Like, being in the Midwest, there's not the opportunity to work so much.
Sure.
So I was much more focused on, like, trying to actuate that and manifest that, even though it wasn't really possible in the Midwest. But, like, now that I'm in New York and I'm working a lot, I love to put the trumpet down and do other things, and, like, hang out and not talk about music and that's really what's interesting to me is to explore new things and learn new things.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah. How do you feel like those hobbies that you have are then translated into the music that you're writing compositionally and arranging?
Well, they definitely. I mean, they're inspiring. I feel at this point I've done a lot of work on the craft of music, especially with the writing and the trumpet technique side of things. I'm still developing myself as a soloist. I mean, I'm developing all those aspects, but like I know that if I have to write a song today, I can sit at the piano for 2 hours and crank out a pretty good song. I just know it's going to be there, and that's a good feeling. I used to, those stories of like Billy Strayhorn. Did you ever read the Billy Strayhorn biography?
That's Lush Life, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got it on my shelf. I have
great.
I have a bad habit of like getting halfway through books.
Yeah. It's great. But like he and Duke would have this, you got to wake up. When you hear the song at 3 a.m, you got to get out of bed and go to the piano and plunk it out. Like your poor neighbors, I used to keep a tape recorder and like sing in my phone. And now I don't even do that anymore because it's like, I'll find something. It's going to happen. I don't feel like I need to capture the idea. It's just going to, when I need it, it'll be there.
Yeah.
But I do get a lot of inspiration from literature, Russian literature. I like a lot of, I was talking to Gabriella last night. I like a lot of fiction, Russian and American fiction, like, Dostoevsky and Tolstoy and Chekhov and Nabokov and then Hemingway and Philip Roth and Saul Bellows. So if I just think about something like that for a while, I'll get an idea. It's funny because it's not programmatic. You understand programmatic music?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the idea that you would write a piece of music that actually tells a story. It's like this section is like when the witch comes down.
Yeah.
And I don't really think like that, but it's just like I get a feeling from a story.
Yeah.
And then it's just a springboard. Chick Corea was always like, he was a Scientologist.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, big time Scientologist. And I was always inspired. I love his music and his playing and everything. Chick Corea Solo Piano Volume 2 is like one of the best records. But he would write songs based on, fiction works like Alice in Wonderland, or he write stuff based on L. Ron Hubbard's book. L. Ron Hubbard is the founder of Scientology, and he would write these like science fiction books. But Chick would always write songs based on literature that he enjoyed, and I really, I would say it was just interesting to me. And then I kind of feel the same way. Like if you give me it's funny. Like if I just wanted to play some music, what should I play? I wouldn't know what to play. But then like if I have an idea about a story or a character, I'm like, what would they, what's a melody that would describe what they're going through? And I could just do it, So like my record that I released last spring, I don't know, a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
The first track is called The Bet, which is based on a short story. I think it's by Chekhov. I'm pretty sure it's by Chekhov. About like being trapped in a room. This guy voluntarily secludes himself in a room for like 20 years, and I was just trying to capture that kind of turmoil. And it was literally just like the first note. I sat at the piano and I was the story is I knew I had to write this song like today. It was like a Thursday, and I was like, I got to write this song today because rehearsals are next week, and
Oh, just before the session.
Like right before, and I was like, I had a bunch of songs that I had written over years, and I was like, I need something a little more like fiery. I needed something like a little more kind of banner waving and being like, this is like real shit, and it was a beautiful day outside. It was like in March, and it was like 70 degrees. And I was like, oh man, I want to go ride my bike and like go to the park and string up my hammock. I have a hammock that I take and string in Prospect Park in Brooklyn.
Beautiful.
Yeah. But I was like, I got to write this song. So I was like thinking about that story because the guy's like trapped in his room. You know what I mean?
I was about to say, it's now allegorical.
Yeah. So I just had, and I was like, and I was like, okay, great. And then you just start going, and for me, I just follow the melody, and then find the bass notes and then fill in the rest, but, and then you make edits. I still change things from time to time. I did a big band arrangement of it in December for a show in New York that I did. And I still changed like a couple parts. I made it like, I added a bar here or like shortened it over there, I'm just making changes, but yeah. The other things, the other hobbies that I have, literature really informs my practice as a musician, especially as a composer. But the other things are just like blowing off steam.
Yeah.
Just like I got to get out. I got to clear my head kind of thing.
Man, you are the consummate interview guest, because it's just all the things that I was going to ask about. You're just leading into brilliantly.
I thought you might want to talk about my record.
Dude, I am so excited to talk about the record, man. Dude, speaking specifically on the idea of programmatic or a narrative, Pearls of the Tartar, and especially the intro, have very kind of starkly, not to say that they don't match, that's not what I'm saying, but very starkly different kind of feelings, and to specifically attribute that as intro to Pearls.
Yeah.
Because I know that tune was dedicated to the memory of like Horace.
Yeah, Horace Silver,
right?
Yeah.
So what narratively, if anything, was happening in those two compositions?
Man, this is a long answer. Okay.
Hit me.
Well, the tune is like, just has this, it starts with a bar with a fermato over it that just says piano improv. And I have these major sevenths, boom, bee, boom, bee, boom, bee, boom, bee. And that's, I just give those intervals to the pianist, and whoever it is improvises. And I've had a lot of people play it over the years. And I wanted to feature Stephen Feifke, and that's why we're playing with Stephen while we're here. Yeah. He's a great friend of mine. I met him. We were both taking lessons from David Berger.
Okay.
Who did a bunch of Ellington transcriptions, as a master arranger and composer in New York City. He lives on Duke Ellington Boulevard. He's just like, he is about Duke Ellington. So I met Stephen there, and he's a very close friend, and we've had a lot of formative experiences together. His star is just taken off. He's teaching at Berklee School of Music, right?
Oh, I know. Yeah, I know he's in Boston. And I know the weather in Boston very well now.
Yeah, you were dealing with some flight issues for Stephen yesterday.
Some things, man.
But I'm just, I really cherish our relationship, and I'll go for months without seeing him, and then when we see each other, it's like we're right back to where we were. But I wanted to feature Stephen on that record, and so I just made it a separate track. So Intro to Pearls is not really a title in itself. It's just like, I wanted to, if the song started off with a 90-second piano intro, most people would skip it. You know what I mean? Just as the nature of people's attention spans.
Sure.
So I wanted to, like, when the song kicks off, it's like very funky, Horace Silver type thing, and that like grabs people. Yeah. But I wanted to give Stephen his own space for a track on the record. He's such a brilliant improviser and musician. Yeah. It's just, there's so much music in his head. It's kind of astounding. So I just separated that out. But like, in a performance, it would just lead right in. And then this is somewhat circuitous, but like, so Pearls of the Tartar, there's a book by Dostoevsky that's kind of slept on. It's called House of the Dead.
Okay.
And Dostoevsky was a political exile in his time. He was criticizing, I think, Tsar Nicholas. I'm not totally sure about who he was criticizing. He was criticizing the wrong person. And so he got exiled to Siberia, which is like a place you don't want to go. It's cold and barren. And so he got sent to this prison, and he had to like, Dostoevsky was basically, at the time, he wasn't nobility. He wasn't like moneyed, but he was an intellect. He wasn't like a serf or a common person, like farming and things like that. He was like kind of, at the time, like maybe middle class, but like upper middle class. But I don't think he was necessarily rich or extremely privileged in any way. So he got sent to this prison, and he's in there with like real criminals, like serious bad people. and just some disadvantaged people and things like that. But he did like a few years in this Siberian prison, which, man, I mean, I couldn't imagine going to a place like that, you know. But he did create this, and then he was supposed to be, I think he was supposed to be executed, and they led him up to the gallows. Like they were like, "You're getting executed on Thursday," and then like he just sat there in his in his prison cell and was just like, "I'm gonna die." And then they led him up to the gallows, and then they were like, "You're free to go." They like let him go, you know.
Hold on, but how does that even happen?
It's just they were just messing with him. They were just torturing him, basically.
Yeah. Oh,
you
man.
know. So he wrote this book called House of the Dead, which is an exceptional. It's fiction, but it's based on his own experiences. It's a guy who gets sent to a prison camp, you know, and I forget actually the context of the quote, but he said, you know, like in America we'll say like pearls before a swine, like you're casting pearls before a swine, and the phrase he used was pearls before a Tartar. Like a Tartar is like I think today we would call them, I think they're Kazakhstans, like Cossack or Kazakhstans. It's like, or maybe like a Hun, you know, like a what's that area? North of China. I can't remember.
You would know more than I.
Man, I'm sorry, I'm all over the place. But the idea is like you would give this fun, like these maybe these warriors or these pillagers would plunder a village, and they would take all the gold and the pearls and all the finery. Yeah. They don't appreciate it. They wear it until it's like falling off of them. Yeah. They don't take care of it. You know what I mean? It's like it's like you're wasting this finery on these people who don't understand. You know, and so I started to think about. So I'm a product of the jazz education system. I have a master's degree, and I did my undergrad in jazz studies and my master's in jazz studies, and it's just so hyper focused on like Bird and Train and like Miles and Dizzy and like a very select few musicians that we all know and love, of course. Like those guys are amazing. But there's so many more musicians. There's so many more musicians that don't get discussed very much, like Joe Henderson.
Yeah.
Man, Joe Henderson's compositions, I think they changed jazz.
Yeah.
In the 70s and the 60s and 70s, and like nobody talks about that. You don't study Joe Henderson's stuff really unless you're like you want to do a project on it or something. Yeah. But you're not going to like spend the kind of time like people like, you must learn Charlie Parker's language or Dizzy Gillespie's language. You know, you must check out the ends, you know, those Miles Davis relaxing and
right.
It's like those are like the staple. But and then like another guy who's slept on in jazz education is Horace Silver. And such a brilliant composer and piano player. I love his piano playing. You can hear it in an instant. Like that's Horace. You know, the way he plays is so percussive, and he's always got his left hand down in the bass, like pissing off bass players. You know? Like, but he's just like chunk, chunk, chunk all the time. It's so driving and so rhythmic. And I felt like a lot of his compositions can sound very basic, you know, to a lot of people, and it's not like the kind of thing that grabs, you know, so-called intellectuals in jazz education. This is not. I don't say that to disparage anybody in jazz education, but he didn't necessarily reinvent the wheel or change the direction of the music in a super meaningful way, like the way Bird did, or Louis Armstrong, or Miles Davis a few times. You know,
a few times.
Yeah, but his writing is just so perfect in its simplicity, and you know the record is mostly, my record is a lot of modern stuff. There's like a breakbeat thing, and there's like, you know, some straight eight things, and but I wanted to write a tune that's just very like kind of 60s swing, and so Horace's music, I feel like is it's underappreciated in the way that you cast pearls before a Tartar or a swine or something, you know. So people don't appreciate it for how it's not just like fun and grooving, because he gets looped into that funky jazz thing, which is like in the 70s, but it's so, if you really look at it, there's some really amazing tunes like Echo, and it's like, wow, this is a masterpiece. Yeah. And it's pretty simple stuff, but it's just the choices he makes regarding the form and the melody, it's just like if you took anything away, you'd ruin it. If you added anything more, you'd ruin it. You know, and I wanted to do something like that. So that song is dedicated to him, and the title is like kind of a roundabout way of
that is. When you said this is a long story and you were like almost questioning whether to tell it, like that is what I live for as somebody who like I like to make sure that anything that I'm going to put out like narratively like makes sense and has like a through line and is meaningful. And as listeners, like that's it's going to change completely the way that I listen to the album now. Listening to that, you know, one of the things about the record I'm so excited to hear about is, I mean, it's kind of on the nose just talking about the title, but specifically you were saying that Seven Angels, it can be like, you know, these amassing of guardian angels that we have through our life. I do have several questions. I'll start with these seven angels. Is it specifically referencing the kind of Hebrew and biblical literature, Seven Angels?
No. No, it's not. It's not. I just like, basically, I like the way it sounded. You know, I was inspired by a couple speeches, like Obama had a speech about the better angels of our nature. And I think George Bush the first had a speech about like 1,000 points of light. And it's some of those phrases which is like, it's kind of, I'm not a religious person or really even spiritual, you know, but just thinking about like, something beyond our lived experience on earth. Like, and I think Seven Angels, I like the idea. I would love for it to be true that there's some forces out there that are kind of guiding us or helping us along in some way, you know. Seven Angels it's not a reference to anything specifically. I really liked I like words, you know. I like the way certain words can pair up together and sound nice. So, you know, I was talking to publicists when I was going to release the record, and they're like, "Man, you really should like do a record that has like a story." And I was like, "Well, too late." You know, like I did the record,
but that's dumb because the record has a story.
But it has a lot of story. Each song has a story, and it's like it's my experience, you know. But like they want a record that's like about something. You know, that they're saying like they want, and this is no offense to publicists, but they want something that's gonna make their job easier to do. Sure. Like, oh, this record is about, you know, forest fires in some region, you know. That's an easy sell for them, you know. But it's just like some jazz tunes, some guys playing jazz songs, you know. It's like it's hard to stand out in that way. So I thought about kind of what's the phrase people use now? Retcon. I tried to like, what angels could I be talking about? You know, to try to make sense out of it and pitch it to people. But it's just a phrase that I really enjoyed. And you know, I don't share this very often, but I have synesthesia. Do you know what that is?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have that. I never knew it was a thing until I got to college. But and I also really love photography. That's another one of my hobbies that I forgot to mention. So that picture on the cover, I took that photo in my hometown. It's such a small town with like nothing really to write home about, but the sunsets are gorgeous. I grew up on a lake, and there was like, it was about this time of year, and the lake was frozen over, and the sunsets are so colorful. And you don't really see sunsets in New York because there's all the buildings, you know. But I took that picture on a film camera that I had that I really love, and I was just like, man, this is a great photo. And the words Seven Angels, the letters in it, the colors, for me, it's all in my head, you know. The colors, they kind of go with the photo very well, and it's just like, so there's not a ton of meaning behind the name of it, but it's just you know, it's just things I like basically, and that's, you know, that's something that I've kind of come to in my career, and maybe you've experienced this. It's like when you're making music, a lot of times, especially when you're developing, you're trying to do things that you think other people are going to like, you know, or like for a teacher, you know, oh, my teacher's really going to, if I play like this, I'm going to get approval. But, you know, I I did my first album when I'm 36 years old or something. So I was just like, I'm just going to do what I like and what appeals to me, and hopefully it resonates with people. That's the best I can do.
Yeah, I mean, you're super, noted and accomplished as in a variety of different ways as a composer, as an arranger, band leader, sideman, trumpet player. Man, you might be a singer, and then me and Benny are both going to be like, out of here. There's too many. We're mixing it all up.
I'm thinking about singing actually on my next record.
Are you really?
Yeah, I'm thinking. I'm thinking about it.
Strike the set.
But it's not going to be like you guys are singing up and down the scale. It's crazy what you guys do, and I'm just going to be like, I'm going to be the chill.
Sure.
Yeah. This close to the mic.
Yeah. Well, man, I was going to ask, you said recording the first record at 36. Were there things that you wanted to make sure to, were there any considerations that made you wait until that moment? Because we can kind of get in our head about, our first impression to the world, that somebody can listen to 10 seconds on Spotify and then turn off or check out the whole record.
Well, the main consideration was money. And that I didn't have any.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
To produce a record like that costs a lot of money.
Yeah.
I mean, it's the most money I've ever spent on anything in my entire life.
Yeah.
And the thought of doing another one keeps me awake at night.
Yeah, right.
Like to really do a record at that scale, I'm happy with everything on that record, but I'm really happy with the production.
Yeah.
And like the way I did it. At a great studio in Brooklyn, Big Orange Sheep. Shout out to my guys, the Big Orange Sheep, Chris Benham, Mike Perez Cisneros. It's like the best studio. It's my favorite studio in New York City, and it just happens to be a mile from my house, so
Amazing.
I can ride my bike there. It's killing. I'm really happy with the sound of the record. I'm a bit of an audio nerd. Not that like I have like some crazy, ridiculous, nice hi-fi stereo at home or anything, but like I appreciate a quality recording,
Yeah.
And I had done, I think I told you, I had done a couple projects with this kind of jazz rock band I had out in Denver called Shirley. And I was like a real big Kneebody fan. I was like kind of a Kneebody stalker actually. But I love Shane Ensley. Brilliant trumpet player, and it's such a sweet guy. And when I moved to Brooklyn, he didn't live that far from me. He's back in Denver now, but he was he was one of the guys when I got to town who was very warm. And New York is a tough place to live, and he was so nice and helpful and inspiring. His music inspires me, So when I was in Denver, I kind of was like, Denver's very much a jam band kind of town. And everybody's in like 4 bands, and they all have like a food name, like burnt toast or something like this, Yeah. So I was in a few different bands out there, but I wanted to start a band. I started a band with some very close friends of mine. I called it Shirley, like a lady's name, Shirley,
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And we did some really cool stuff. The drummer Ed Brazil brought in an arrangement that he did of a Soundgarden tune, and I wrote some originals, stuff that like. When I got to New York and I had these tunes, people didn't want to play them because it was like you had to play written music too much. And then you get to an improv section that's like 4 bars vamp, and they're not interested in that. But in Denver, people were more into that kind of thing. So I did those records, and the first one we did in this guy's house, is Cat Michael. He's a really nice guy. But it was like, it sounds okay. He wanted me to use a ribbon mic, and I was like, no, I want to use a Sennheiser 421, and that was like the wrong choice. I should have totally listened to him and used a ribbon mic. But then we did another one we did another Shirley record in a studio out there, Mile High. Colin Bricker has a great studio in Denver. It's like the spot you go to if you want to do a jazz record. And that one is digital only. So I had experience producing records basically.
Yeah.
And then being in New York, I played on a lot of big band records. It was crazy for like 5 years. I was on like a dozen records or something,
Man.
which was an amazing experience. And I look back and I'm like, was I on all those? Like Remy LaBeouf and Stephen Feifke and G. Hay Lee and all, it's crazy.
Yeah.
It just happened like in the blink of an eye. But suffice to say, I had like some studio knowledge, like
Yeah.
how to go in, how to get good takes, what your options are for if you need to fix something. Like I had a pretty strong understanding. I'm a little logic fluent, like recording stuff. I can do stuff at home, but like if you give me a real engineer, I can do a lot. You know, I can and I put there was a lot of work went into that record, and I'm very proud of it. But it's the kind of thing I want to do. Other things that are maybe not as in depth. Like I have for example, I do some videos at this studio iBeam in Brooklyn, and those are kind of just like one day. We get what we get. Release a video, and I have another batch of those that we did in October, this last October, that I'm working on now, and I'll probably just put it out. I'm not gonna like press it, and go to a label and hire a publicist and all that. I'm just gonna get it out there. You know? But every few years, I want to do something like big. You know, like a big, and really invest in. If I could do like 4 or 5 really, really good records in my life, I'll be really happy with that. Because it's not like 1960 where you're going in and cutting an album every 3 months.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not like that anymore.
Man, iBeam seems to be the place where, it's like a reading gig, reading session, a lot. It kind of works out a lot of originals. It seems also that it kind of started, correct me if I'm wrong, to be the birthplace of the band that you co-lead, New Alchemy Jazz Orchestra.
Well, yes and no.
Okay.
iBeam is kind of, it's a funny place. It's not funny. It's a beautiful studio in like this very industrial part of Brooklyn.
Yeah.
And all the recordings that I've done there, I've been so lucky that there wasn't like some construction happening like right next door, because sometimes you go there and you can't even hear yourself because there's like a drill into the wall. So I really lucked out with that. But it's a rehearsal space and a performance space in Gowanus, Brooklyn, which is not a place that people would go, like, at all. if you're in Gowanus, you're like, where am I? Like,
how do I get out?
I need to leave this place now. But this trombone player in New York, Brian Dries, really sweet cat. He just started this space, and he got a nice drum set, a Gretsch drum set, and a beautiful piano. It's like a European, it's a German classical piano, basically. It's a grand piano. It's a Schiller. And I just loved when pianists come in, they're like, what is this? Because you never see those around at the clubs. But it's kind of a step up from your average New York rehearsal space. And when I moved to New York and I didn't have a ton of money, not that I do now, but I was like, if I could get a membership at iBeam, that would be great, because then I could have sessions. And that's what I did. I would start calling people and having sessions and workshopping tunes. And I don't want people to go to a dingy little space and be like, this place is gross, this piano sucks. So I was already a member at iBeam. And then like we started this big band, New Alchemy Jazz Orchestra, with like Mike Saylors, who's here now.
Of course.
And then Steve Cortica, who's a brilliant tenor saxophonist who plays with Brian Newman and Lady Gaga when they do their thing. And I went to college with Steve and Brian Newman in Cincinnati. So that's like, it's just amazing to see what's happened with Brian, especially. Like the way, he moved to New York and just became friends with Lady Gaga when she was just Stephanie, and now she's Lady Gaga.
Yeah, right.
And when she does her jazz thing, she calls Brian, and Brian's the guy. And then Alex Smith is the piano player, and he kind of does a lot of her jazz music, prepares a lot of her jazz music.
And Daniel Foose is the bass player on that hit as well.
Yeah. So great guys. And then sometimes I'll do gigs with Brian in the city, because he's got his own thing, obviously. But it's wild to see how that's what's happened there. It's crazy.
Yeah.
But and then Danny Giannacucci was the other head of New Alchemy. There's 4 guys.
Right.
We had originally it was like we were going to call it like the Sailors Lake Giannacucci Cortica, and we were like, no, like, that's not going to work.
Like a nice abbreviation.
Yeah, like
work, something.
Sailor John. It's like no. So we came up with New Alchemy,
Why New Alchemy?
I'm not sure. We were just sitting around, like we would have hangs, we'd have meetings, and like, well, okay, so around that time in New York, like I was writing big band charts, not enough to have my own band. And that's the other thing. When I lived in Cincinnati and Denver for 5 years each, I led bands.
Yeah.
I wrote a bunch of music, and I put on shows, and I had weekly gigs at the Greenwich in Cincinnati and El Chapultepec 2 in Denver, and I had my septet, and I had a book, and I was calling people. I ran a jam session in Boulder for a few months. Like, it's a lot of work, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's putting on shows is a lot of work.
Yep.
And calling a band, and I don't really want to do that anymore. Like especially for live performances, it's a lot of pressure and a lot of stress. I mean, I can't imagine how stressed you were with putting on these shows, and the composer's like on a plane, like we're supposed to start. I don't know if I'm spilling tea or whatever.
No, we're going to tell the whole story.
Okay, great.
Over episodes, yeah.
So like that kind of stress, I'm just like, I kind of put that down. But
yeah.
So I didn't, Stephen was starting a big band, and a couple other people, like my colleagues, I don't know. I was like, at the time, like 35 in New York, and a lot of people my age had big bands that I was playing in, and I was like, yeah, I should start a big band, but like I have these charts, and I don't want to do it. It's too much work. It's too much work. That's an empirical fact.
Yeah.
Running a big band is too much work. It's like, don't do it.
And then playing in the band.
Do not try this at home. Do not start a big band.
Do not.
It's too much work. But, the other thing, like when I moved to New York, I didn't go to school in New York. So when I got there, everybody had their like little groups that they went to school at, Juilliard and Manhattan School. I had done my schooling elsewhere, so when I got here, I didn't have a crew. I didn't have any kind of crew, and I was like, when I found these guys, and we're all like-minded and similar ideas for what we wanted our big band to be, I was like, oh, this is my crew.
Yeah,
this is my, I felt like I had for the first time in New York, I had like my people.
Yeah,
rather than just showing up at things and being like cool with somebody. Like, these are my guys.
What led you to each one of them?
Well, Steve I knew from college.
Right.
Danny was another guy under David Berger. So I met Danny when we were both studying with David Berger, and I worked for David. I was his copyist and his librarian. Man, that guy's got a lot of charts. A lot of charts. And just did, helped him out with things. And I met Danny and Stephen about the same time. And, a lot of the big bands in New York the music is ridiculously challenging. It's like 11/8 and then 7/8, and you're playing like kind of classical, but also kind of rock. And it's, I got into this music because I love all that stuff. And I really enjoyed doing it. I love the challenge. And there's some really incredible composers in New York, like I mentioned, Remy and Michael Thomas and Edward Terraza Big Band, Terraza 7 as a club in Queens. They were Grammy nominated, and Ji-Hae Lee. It's like, this music is challenging. It's hard to play. Darcy James Argue is kind of like the guy before them who was like, let's make music hard, but also really cool.
Yeah.
I mean, the things he's able to conjure soundscapes that like you wouldn't think possible with a big band. But the music is challenging. It's very difficult to play. And I was like, man, I kind of want to like play 4/4.
Yeah.
Swing and like 8-bar phrases.
Yeah.
And I don't want to count. I just want to just chill for 16 bars, that kind of stuff. Like, I love Count Basie. It's the best. And the Thad Jones Mel Lewis Jazz Orchestra, which is now the Vanguard. I mean, that's why I got into jazz music.
Yeah.
And that is jazz music. And it's, I mean, the swing feeling, there's nothing like it.
Yeah.
There's nothing like it. This drummer you have, Fabio, is killing, man. It's so killing. So swinging. And with Foose, it's like, man, there's nothing like that feeling. So that's what we wanted to do.
Yeah.
And we wanted to have like a kind of an old school, really shimmery, like 50s hit parade big band.
Yeah.
And we found a home we did a couple shows and they went okay. And then we found a home at the Django in New York City. And man, we just like settled in and it was fun. Oh my God, it was fun. And we had the best musicians. God, it was so great. It was so great. It was a lot to do. I mean, it was like 2 years every month. And we would do a Christmas show I had this idea for like a neo soul Christmas show, and we would get these singers. And God, it was so much fun.
Man.
It was a ton of work.
Those singers are great too. Like that Christmas Time is here with Jay Horde.
Yeah, Jay Horde is my boy. Oh God, I love John. He's from Ohio too.
Oh, cool.
We met doing wedding bands actually, and he's just like this unbelievable artist. I mean, he's like a gospel singer. But he writes his own music and he does loop pedals and he plays piano. It's like he's a once in a generation talent, you know. And I was very lucky to we have an affinity and like we like the same kinds of music. And I wrote songs that I knew he would just destroy.
Shine, yeah.
I think my favorite one that I did for him was "Do You Hear What I Hear?"
I haven't heard it.
Oh man, it's that may be one of my favorite things I've ever written. It's just a big band arrangement of "Do You Hear What I Hear?"
Yeah.
But like, and we had that year was really special. We had Barry Stevenson on bass, and Joe Perry on drums, and Mickey Yamanaka on piano, and the whole band is just it's too good, man. It's too good. You know, like I kind of can't get over how good it was. But it's at the same time, the thought of doing it again it's so much work.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Is like I'm hearing the word "was," and I'm like, man, I want to hear the words "is." Man, the band is too good, and the charts are so killing that it's like now that we can come up to New York, I'm like dying to hear it live in the Django, man.
Well, Mike lives here now. He lives in Austin, and Steve is out a lot with Lady Gaga, and Danny for a while was going to school, and then the pandemic happened, so it kind of kiboshed a lot of that stuff. Now we don't. The Django, I'm not sure that they're booking. They have the Mingus Big Band like every week, and so that's it. That's the big band that they have is Mingus. Yeah, I'm not sure there's really a home for us, but I think the other thing is like for me. I think we were talking about this a little bit last night. I'm not sure, but
we'll see.
At a certain point, you have to start making choices. Like when you're considering your path as an artist, what's your art going to be? Like, am I going to be one of these guys in a bow tie and a straw hat playing traditional jazz? Because I've done that, or am I going to be like somebody playing avant-garde jazz all the time? Because I've done that. Am I going to be a funk commercial trumpet player? Because I've done that. It's like New Alchemy is kind of rooted in the 50s, 60s swing, which I love that music, but I think my music has to be a little more forward-leaning, not crazy, not like so modern that people can't tap their feet or something like that, or sing a melody. But I want it to be something. I want my music to be something a little bit more like a concert jazz band playing modern jazz music. And I know that's not like necessarily what everybody wants. People want swing music that feels good and puts a smile on their face, but you only get one shot at this thing, and I kind of want to. I always feel like I'm putting on a suit. I'm putting on a mask when I play those kinds of music. Like if I'm trying to play like Kenny Dorham, I feel like I'm kind of faking in a way. You know what I mean? Like my music, I think, has got to be a little bit. It's just got to be for me, and sometimes it's swing, like Pearls of the Tartar. Sometimes it's that hard bop swing, but more often it's a little more like exploratory, maybe straight eighth, maybe just not locked into that straight ahead big band swing. So as I think about my career, I think I need to lean into that, you know? And I think a lot of the other guys feel the same way. Like they want to do their music. It's really amazing how each of us grew as composers during that time, because you're writing so many charts, you know? I think I've probably written, I don't know, like 100 big band charts at this point. And in addition to like a bunch of other, you know, smaller group stuff or whatever, but like you look at the charts when we started and then when we finished, and you could see everybody's branches kind of going like this, you know what I mean? And it's like, it doesn't necessarily make a cohesive concert at that point. And like, so I'm not saying we're not going to do anything, you know, we all love each other and we're great friends and we all still love to swing. We all love that music, but we're all kind of, for this period, focusing on our own things a little bit. There could be something down the road, but you know, I say was. I don't know. I should say is.
Yeah, man. Well, I mean, I love watching things evolve, right?
Yeah.
Whether or not that means that New Alchemy evolves, or New Alchemy is like representative of like, you know, someone's second album, and then you hear their like 5th album or their 20th album.
Yeah.
Hearing how things evolve separately or together, and who's to say there's not going to be like the newer jazz or newer Alchemy Jazz Orchestra, you know.
That's the spirit of jazz music, is to evolve.
Exactly.
You know, like that's what it is. That's the art form. And as an artist, I feel like if you're not evolving, if your 4th record sounds like your 1st record, what are you doing?
Exactly. Yep.
You know, are you just giving your fans what they want to hear? Like that's fine. Don't get me wrong. Like
Sure.
play for what sells. Like do what's been working for you. But like for me, I don't know. I want to make the music that I'm interested in, and my interest is fleeting. You know, it changes. Like I said, I have a lot of hobbies. So this year I might like this thing, and 5 years from now I might like something else. My next record, I really want to do something like have some more backbeat stuff, some more like I want to feature some singers. I'm really interested in writing for some fantastic singers in New York that are like kind of slept on, and I want to highlight them. You
Amazing.
know, and co-write. You know, I'm getting into collaboration. I think that's like could take you to places that you never thought possible. Yeah. You know, more than just like sitting down and writing a thing. Like this is the same. I wrote this chart 5 years ago. Yeah. It's just like in a different key and it has a different feel, but it's basically the same. You only have so many tools in your bag, but when you can collaborate with somebody, especially like a singer who thinks about lyrics in a unique way. I don't really think about lyrics that much. It can really reveal some incredible things. Yeah. You know. 100%. So I'm excited for that.
Man, I will be the first in line. I'll give you all of the money now, Futurama style. Take my money.
Okay.
And then just get the record to me down the line. I'm so psyched to hear that, man. And especially the idea of collaboration with singers and bringing that whole thing together. Yeah. It's just like, it's a dream, you know, for me to hear about those considerations and just the care and the thoughtfulness that goes into making a record, you know, and how you're approaching it is exactly the thing that just, you know, kind of keeps me up at night with that like natural adrenaline, you know, natural caffeine, I should say, you know. I'm very psyched to hear it.
It's just, you know, you do this thing for a while and you learn things and you pick things up and you're like, these drums sound good. I like those kind of cymbals. Mm-hmm. I like this kind of saxophone sound for this song, but on another song, maybe I'll call somebody else because they play better for this song, you know? Yeah. And really, like, for me, the best part about this music and this lifestyle is the community, which is ironic because where I grew up, I like wanted to, everybody mind your business, you know?
Yeah, right.
But now that I'm in New York, I love this community, you know? I have so many great friends in New York that I've made music with, and it's strange because you don't see them very often, like Steven. I don't get to see Steven very often these days, but when I see him, it's like, you know, buddies.
It's there.
Yeah. And I want to highlight members of the community. You know, I want to display what they have to offer because they're all doing amazing things. Everybody's doing amazing things. Yeah. But they're in their corner, and you know the media what's the phrase I'm looking for? Like our media is so fractured nowadays. With YouTube, everybody's got their fan base.
Yeah.
Of like, be it 500 or 50,000 fans, and I it's kind of pocketed.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's not that I have no fans, but like I just want to like mix. Like when I did my record Seven Angels, like a lot of the guys in the band didn't even know each other.
Yeah.
They'd never met, and I thought that's kind of interesting because you guys play like you grew up together.
Exactly.
I just knew who would work. I didn't even think about that. I just thought about the way they play, and it worked out phenomenally.
Well, I mean, that's a testament to your cognizance, and then also just kind of band leading proficiency, acumen, that it wasn't even a conscious thing. It was just like, no, this is going to be it. These are going to be the guys, and I know that each one of them are thoughtful and caring, that it's going to sound as if they have been playing together every day for 10 years. So, man, amazing. Let me ask you a couple more questions. The speed round at the end is if there's a record that you would go, now that we've been talking about records, that you would go tell everybody to listen to right now as soon as this ends, what would it be?
Oh, my record.
Amazing.
Seven Angels.
Let's go.
Get it now. No.
JohnLake.com. JohnLake.com?
Jazz.com.
JohnLakeJazz.com.
There's a couple other John Lakes.
Okay.
It's
Not
frustrating.
for long. We're going to put the word out.
There's like a John Lake club. You can join a club of John Lakes.
Okay.
They would mail me stuff and be like, join the club. I'm like,
They give you CDs. They send you CDs.
I'm not sure what the
Subscription service.
benefits are to joining. Anyways, CD that everybody should check out. I could say 100 CDs that people should check out. One thing that I think is kind of slept on these days is Kenny Wheeler, Small and Large Ensembles. Are you familiar with that record?
I'm not.
Man, I think in New York, a lot of people aren't familiar with that music at all.
Sure.
But it's a suite of music. It's a double disc album. Kenny came to Cincinnati while I was a student there, and like it was just kind of a light switch.
Yeah.
Like I heard it and I was like, whoa! I had never heard any music that sounded like this, or especially big band music, and it was just like, oh, I was saying I love Count Basie and Duke Ellington, but it was like, oh, like
Yeah, right.
this is not swinging all the time, but it's like this is unreal.
Yeah.
Like the world's. It's like it transports you to another world. And I would say check out that record. Music for large and small ensembles. The Sweet Time Suite is like kind of the main thing. The opening, oh my God. The opening is so gorgeous.
Yeah.
But there's a track on I think on the second disc. Well, nobody's listening to discs nowadays. It's like track 14 or something. It's called Sea Lady. Oh God, it's so incredibly beautiful. Norma Winstone is the vocalist, and I think the guy's name is Andrew Parker. I'm not sure.
Okay.
British. They're all mostly British guys. Plays a soprano sax, and he's kind of a free jazz soprano sax player, but he can do this circular breathing and use multiphonics to just he can play for 10 minutes at a time, doing these incredible, like, what is that
Superhuman.
sound? Yeah, and then Norma Winstone's voice is just so pure and crystalline, and it's an amazing record. I would say check out Music for Small and Large Ensembles. I think I'm saying that right. But the track is Sea Lady.
Okay.
It's great.
Oh man, it's the move. I'm so excited, man. And then the final question, I hipped you to this the other night, so that way get the ideas flowing. Is that we all have gigs from hell, things where things go sideways, whether they are logistical, unheard of, especially on February 26, 2022, or it could be just like we've truly had run the gamut of people being shot at and being held hostage at a gig, and then they made it, and then they went to a church gig 2 hours later, and they were like, "Thank you, Lord,"
Yeah.
So, what would be your gig from hell?
I tried to think of one, and I can't think of a gig that I was like, I'm so glad I'm not doing that anymore.
Sure.
I just love making music, man, and even if it's a bad gig, you're there with your friends, hopefully, or like you can get something out of it. I think that's this industry is so hard.
Yeah.
You sacrifice so much to be a musician, and the pay is not great. And I've been telling you and Gabriella, it's like the treatment we've received being here is outstanding, unbelievable. Like we're never treated like this. Like we're always treated so poorly most of the time. So yeah, I think if you don't really love making music, it's not going to work out.
Yeah, sure.
You're not going to be happy. Like if I can just be in a room with people making music, the kind of camaraderie is like there's no bad gig. I will say that like I used to do live sound. That's part of my thing with audio that and studio stuff. Is I used to do live sound, so I know my way around a mixing desk. And back when it was analog, and I got on a couple gigs. I worked for the city of Cincinnati Parks Department for their concert audio thing, and like there was a couple gigs where like we were not prepared. Like it was such a shit show. Oh my God. I loved this cat in Cincinnati. He's a brilliant mixing engineer and monitor engineer. His name's Nicholas Redina. He showed me so many things. He also plays like the guitar, like the Latin American guitar that has like doubled strings. And he plays timbales. He's a brilliant musician as well. But like he got me this gig, and then like we'd show up to the gig, and it would be like me and one other guy who kind of knew a thing or two, but not really. And then Nick was not there, and they're like, "Okay, we have a music festival today." We had like one of these. Have you ever played in like one of those trailers that folds out into like a stage?
I know what you're talking about, but I've never done it.
They're horrible. They're the worst thing ever. For sound especially, it's like, would you like some feedback?
Yeah, right.
Because we have a lot of feedback.
Yeah.
And then we're plugging, he knows. And we're plugging into like this like ancient, like from the Roman era plug in the middle of a park that's like crusted with dirt, and the whole rig is coming off this one power source that's like, when was this put in?
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean? Like, and we had this ground hum. Do you know what ground hum is? Mm-hmm. So it's like a 60 hertz, like bam. It's like, it was louder than the band. The ground hum was loud, and like people are sitting there like eating hot dogs. Like, when does the music start?
Well, if it was jazz musicians, you could just like use that
unplug
as like
it.
a pedal.
Well, we could, yeah.
Oh, well, I'm saying then you just adjust all the music to whatever you tune to the hum.
It was like there was no solution that day. There was no remedy to the ail, and like we just suffered all day long. So that was probably the worst gig. I wasn't playing trumpet. I'll say that. I was trying to turn knobs, and it didn't go well.
Trying to turn knobs, and it didn't go well. That's the quote. That's the quote.
Oh God,
John, man, I am so grateful for your friendship and for you being down here, man. And it's a privilege to be able to hear you talk long form about all the things that are important to you. So thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Of course.